Hey, welcome back everyone. It's coffee time. Make sure you grab a nice beverage to enjoy. We're going to be talking about game ideas. This is probably where it all starts. You've been a game player, or you've been maybe in another field, you've been a filmmaker or a writer, or you aspire to be a storyteller, or you basically have always just enjoyed games and you want to get started making your own video games. So you basically go, aha, I've got this great idea. No one's ever thought of it before. It's going to be fantastic. I'm going to get in there and I'm going to pitch the idea to the studio and they're going to be blown away and they're going to make it. Well, I hate to tell you that in all my experience being a CEO of game publishers and game developers, as well as a designer and programmer and artist, that ain't just going to happen that way. It just doesn't. Nobody cares about your idea. That's the cold, hard truth of it all. Now, let me explain that a little bit. So before I do that, let me give you some background. So I have a lot of experience in the industry. I've been making games since I was in college, even before in high school, and I've worked at the biggest companies and launched the biggest franchises. I was team lead for World of Warcraft. I also worked on StarCraft, Diablo 2, and a raft of other games for Interplay and Naughty Dog. So I'm here to tell you that if you have a great game idea, that's wonderful, but it's not worth much. The idea itself, I mean, anybody can think of an idea. You can sit there, you know, in your car, in your shower, and dream anything up you want. You can even write it down. Maybe you'll write like a 60-page document on it because you're so passionate about your idea, and you walk into the studio and you manage to get an appointment with the lead designer or the CEO. You slap the papers down and say, I've got a great game idea. Well, the first thing they're going to ask you is, that's wonderful. Here are the other great game ideas we get. And they're going to show you a submission folder of everything that people have sent them over the years, which is a mile high of all these different game ideas. The first problem you're going to encounter is that it's a legal liability to accept game ideas from people that you don't know, or even your customers. If you're running a game studio and you happen to get sent a submission for a game idea, and let's say you didn't like the idea, but years later you made something that was in the same genre or even remotely similar to what they sent you, you could be in a lot of trouble because that person could make a claim that they gave you the idea in the first place and that you basically copied or ripped off their idea. No matter how tenuous the connection, this claim can be made. And the more successful that your game is as a studio, the more likely is that someone is going to sue you for the idea if they happen to submit a similar idea to you sometime in the past. These lawsuits don't often go in favor of the plaintiff, the person who's complaining that, you know, they submitted the idea and that you stole it from them, because it's very hard to prove. But on the other hand, studios also don't want to take the chance and get bogged down in a lawsuit, so they're not going to accept your idea offhand. You'll basically get a form letter, and I set this policy up at Blizzard, where basically if you were to submit a game idea to Blizzard, you get a note back and your submission back. It says, thank you very much, but we haven't even looked at this. Nobody in development has seen this. You know, only our receptionist has, or whatever, and it's never gone beyond this point, and unfortunately we can't accept idea submissions to our studio. Why did they do this? It's because even though you may not win in a lawsuit against them later to prove that just because you had a four-legged main, lead character in your game and Blizzard has a four-legged character in their next game, that's enough of a connection to sue them for, they still have to go through all the legal hassle to deal with that. And if a lot of people do that, it becomes a real weight on the organization. So if you're starting a game studio, or if you're running a successful one already, you definitely want to protect yourself from that. You don't want to accept idea submissions. On our own forums, we have an end user license agreement on forums.em80r.com, the game we're building, which says that anything posted to the forums, the ideas are in public domain. So if any user submits an idea on the forums, which users are like to do, nobody owns that. It's free for taking for anybody. And that way, that keeps us out of any sort of legal jeopardy that might be incurred by having people post ideas on a forum. So that's the first hurdle you're going to have, is that people just can't accept your idea or even review it, because even if they look at it, now they've put themselves in some kind of legal jeopardy, potentially, in the future. It doesn't happen very often, and it doesn't often win, but it's a big hassle to deal with. Okay, so that's the first reason. Just, it's not legally feasible for game studios to listen to your idea if they don't know you, or if you don't have a business relationship, or if you don't work at the company itself. The second main thing is ideas are cheap. I hate to say it. I mean, everyone's got a great idea for a book, but unless you've written the book, it's really not worth anything. Everybody's got a great idea for a movie, but unless it actually gets made, it's not worth anything. Everybody thinks they're a game designer, right? Everybody I know thinks that game design is easy and that they can go design a game. They just need the right idea. And that is so far from the truth. There is nothing difficult about daydreaming in your shower and coming up with a game idea. That is the easy part. The hard part is distilling that idea down into something that can be made practically with today's technologies and the limitations of game budgets, and be entertaining enough to hook a large enough audience to be worth it. So this is a real problem because, you know, a game idea maybe took you half an hour to think about on the bathroom, sitting on the can, but the actual distilling of that idea into a product takes years and millions of dollars. And so, people are asking themselves, studios and lead designers and CEOs, when they see your idea or they hear your pitch at dinner, they're thinking to themselves, why should I give this person the risk? Why should I take the risk of giving this person millions of dollars and backing of my studio to get this idea made? The first thing they're going to ask is, who are you? What have you done before? Have you ever taken an idea from the idea stage all the way to completion? And nobody, unfortunately, even within a company, is going to take a risk on any one person's idea unless that person has a huge pedigree behind them and a demonstrated track record of delivering results. Because it is the journey, that multi-year development journey from idea to execution to release, that's the difficult part. So some of you are saying, well, Mark, I hear you, I understand, but my idea is so good and I've put so much work into it. I have spent a year crafting a design document that lays out every detail of the game. And, basically I've done so much work, therefore my idea is worth something. No, it's not. I'm sorry, you can spend a year working on a paper document and absolutely nothing happens. Sometimes designers that only work on paper and never have experience executing are called like paper tigers, basically, or paper designers. They basically only are good for coming up on stuff on paper, but they can't script, they can't work with a team, they have no experience, they've never made a game before, and they just don't know how to translate their idea into a workable game. Games are hugely complicated. There are so many moving parts and so many disciplines to consider. Just because you dream up of a feature doesn't mean it's actually possible, or that it actually will translate into fun, or that even a team can get behind it, because you have to get the team excited about your idea too. Okay, so we said there's legal barriers to getting your game idea accepted by a game studio, and that is the simple reality of no one's going to trust you with millions of dollars on a game idea. No game idea is so brilliant on paper that it's going to be a no-brainer to back. I mean, it just never happens.